that right there because you know what? It's Thursday. You know it's football day. Tomorrow's football day. Saturday's football day. It's the Red Zone. Josh Stowap, principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland ISD, Garland, USA. Ready to rock and roll with. Look at this. Look at all of these guys all over the country right now, bringing their experiences, bringing their knowledge, bringing their wisdom to this field that we call public education. We're in the best field out there, the awesome profession that creates all the other professions, and we're all bringing our gifts, all our diamonds, our nuggets, whatever it might be, and we need you. We need you because, we're all in it together. Our kids are moving all over the country nowadays, and we need to learn from each other. What works in one state might help the other state, and we're all in one big team because you know what? Iron sharpens iron. So if you're in Hawaii, if you are in Alaska, if you are in Maine, or you are in Florida, or anywhere in the 48 middle, we need you. If you're watching this on the rebroadcast, please like it and share it. Spread that algorithm because you know what? We're all in it together. What do you think about that, Dean Packard?
Where is Garland, USA, man? Texas. Where is that on the
Dallas,
map?
bro. North Dallas.
North Dallas. I just have to you just roll with that every time we come on, man. And you are just on fuego, brother. Hey, it's great to see all you guys. Happy Thursday night to you. Red Zone is all about getting a little bit better together. Iron sharpening iron. It's really great stuff. We have some top-notch personalities with us tonight. Educational gurus is what I call it. And just people who are considered to be ripple makers in the field of education. So great to have you all with us. My name is Dean Packard, one of the co-founders of Unlock the Middle. And we still go strong every week, twice a week, bringing you content that is riveting, relevant, and real. I love that. Let's get on with the show. Hey, let's go around the horn really quickly. Who are you? Where are you from? And what is your title? John, you're up first.
Hi, everyone. I am John Chimbarry. I am in Montclair, New Jersey, outside of New York City. And I am an educational coach supporting teachers with their learning and teaching and school leaders with their leadership styles.
Bang. Welcome to the show. And here's to New Jersey. Dr. Frederick White. Nice to see you again, my friend.
Always good to be here. I'm Frederick White. I'm principal of Bellevue Middle School in Memphis, Tennessee. I am glad to be here as always.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. You've been here quite a few times. The other half of your family, Jamie. How are you? Welcome back. Talk to us.
All right. Hi, I'm Jamie Fowler White, better half of Dr. Frederick White. I am principal of Scenic Hills Elementary School here in Memphis, Tennessee. Always happy to be here.
It's great to have you back. Brian, good to see you again, my friend. How are you?
Good. How are you guys? I'm Brian Ordowski. I'm the associate principal at Lee Eaton Intermediate School in Northeast Ohio. Just happy to be along, and thanks, guys. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Awesome. Great to have you with us, Brian and Carol.
Hey guys, Carol Tonsing. I'm the principal at Lee Eaton Intermediate School with Brian, and also Northeast Ohio, right outside Akron, I would say.
All right, great to have you, Carol. Carol, we're going to start with you. Let's talk about your origin, your story, your background. Where did you start? How did you get to the position you are right now? Just give us that quick 60 seconds or so of your story, or 2 minutes. We'll go a minute and 20 seconds. Let's go.
All right. So Carol Tonsing used to teach English at Nordonia High School in the same district that I'm administrating now. And it took a whole lot for me to want to giddy up and get out of that classroom. I love the kids, loved all those conversations with high schoolers were fantastic. Found myself at Lee Eaton Intermediate, and I realized that a lot of little tiny people were a lot shorter than me in the hallways, and it was pretty cool.
Great stuff right there. Shout out to Dr. Joe Clark as well. One of our guys and frequent flyer on our show. Good stuff. Brian, your origin. Let's go. Talk about it. How'd you rise to where you're at today?
Well, I am also, first off, I'm an Nordonia grad that I came back and coached there and taught there at the middle school for 6 or 7 years. And then went through my master's program and decided I wanted to take the dive into educational leadership. And truthfully, I started taking that, started going through the interview process actually with Carol, and she liked me enough to keep me on. So I decided that this is the route that I wanted to take. And, ever since then, I haven't looked back, and I love my job every single day. I love what I do. I love impacting kids. So I really feel like I found my calling. So I really, really, really do love what I do.
We call that purpose and why right there. I love that. Jamie.
So I started out in nursing. Got
Change
into
careers.
got into nursing school, and my sister convinced me to actually substitute teach on my 2 days off. Fell in love with education, have been here ever since. So it's not the normal origin, but I love what I do.
There's a story, and I'm going to stick to it right there. John.
I actually, like Jamie, did not start off in education. I was going to go into the State Department. I studied international relations. And then after I graduated with my master's degree in international affairs, I ended up teaching English in Japan for a couple years, came back, decided that I wanted to go the teaching route, did that for a number of years, became a supervisor and then a principal of a high school here in New Jersey. And then from there, ended up in school support roles, supporting teachers and leaders across multiple schools. And then about 6 years ago, I decided to hang my own shingle up and to go semi-independent as a consultant. So now I either work directly with schools or as a subcontractor, still working with school support organizations.
Good stuff right there, John. Thanks for sharing. And Fred.
I started off subbing and moved through the ranks here in Shelby County Schools. Went from subbing to teaching to my department lead to assistant principal to principal. I'm still fairly in education. I've only been in education 25 years, so still new at it.
Quarter of a century.
Yeah, that's all. So I found that I just love being with kids. I love providing my professors and my kids a place where they can do what they do. And so I don't see myself leaving education ever, maybe changing what I do, but never just ever letting go of education.
Great stuff right there, Frederick.
And Fred, don't worry about it. There's someone older than all of us here. I won't say any names.
What do you want to throw the birth dates out right now? We're
I
going
won't
to
say any names.
What do you
right
want to
there.
do?
I'm just throwing that out there.
Come on.
All right, guys. So let's get started a little bit deeper into who you are out there, bringing that street cred to everybody. Hey, Jamie, what or who inspired you to get into education? What or who? And part two, who currently motivates you? Again, two-part question. What or who motivates you to become an educator? And currently, who inspires you?
Well, what inspired me to be in education? I guess the environment that I was substitute teaching in. They actually convinced me once I was there, like I love the children. And so once I was there, it was just such a family feel. Like you could go to anybody in the building, ask them anything, and then they would just just take you in and show you all of the ropes. And so I would say it was the entire building. It was Douglas Elementary School in here in Memphis, Shelby County Schools. That's where I got my start. So that is what convinced me, brought me in. Who inspires me truly? My children, I would say. On those hard days, as Dean told us about a little piece of his earlier, when I'm having a bad day, I go and see how resilient our children are. And that is what inspires me to keep doing what I do each and every day. Because if they can keep trying, so can I. So that's really what inspires me.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Carol.
So I could probably echo everything that Jamie just kind of went through, but I think the first thing that I'm going to talk about is what inspires me is that it happened to me today. You go in and you see a kid who's having a tough time, right? You know, maybe they're struggling academically, behaviorally, or whatever, and you get to witness that aha moment that they have, and it kind of brings your heart back to why we actually do what we do every single day. So that's awesome. So kids definitely keep me in the loving my job. Staff, when you realize you have these, especially like a really young, eager teacher who wants to do really, really well and do the right thing and just keep studying and learning for herself or himself. So that kind of keeps me going as well.
Who inspired you to get into the field of education?
So I'm going to say my father did because he had a phrase that always he said, let's never promote mediocrity. And when he said, he'd make me sit at my table when I was in high school or at grade school and do my homework. I had always had 2 number 2 pencils and a perfect little tablet. And to kind of really appreciate that learning is a significant piece in my life, and just love working with kids too. So it kind of helped me kind of mold it that way. And then when I switched in from the classroom, which was a big deal for me, when I switched into administration, it was because I had done a couple conferences, I had gone the circuit a little bit, done some outside jobs. And then what I realized was that my home really was back in a school setting, and I didn't really want to kind of get away from that. So
thank you for sharing. John.
Yeah, so even though I didn't become a teacher right away, I don't think I ever actually forgot those teachers that really inspired me to do my best. And I'm thinking particularly about a middle school social studies teacher I had, because it wasn't just lecture. He gamified the learning. He allowed us some creativity in how we demonstrated our knowledge. So it was always actually fun going into his classroom. And so when I became a teacher, I know that I channeled him, and I channeled maybe a few other teachers that always allowed us that autonomy as learners to, make meaning of our own learning, right? So that's who inspired me. And then in terms of who inspires me now, I'm going to actually echo something that Carol said. So today I was in a school working with a team of teachers, as well as the principal and the assistant principal, and the entire team was vested in observing math instruction. So the 5th grade team was observing the 4th grade team, et cetera. And it was inspiring to see these young educators really owning their own development. So if I could be a part of that growth, a part of that process, helping them to see some things that maybe they might not have seen or did see, but maybe could have a little bit more emphasis on, that inspires me because that's really what's going to improve education for our kids. If we really think about systemically how internally we could grow and achieve in our schools.
Thank you, John, for sharing that. Fred.
Well, a teacher actually inspired me, but not in the normal way. In middle school, I had a teacher that would always ask when I got a good grade, who did you cheat off of? Or the paper. If I wrote a paper, where did you steal this information from? Or, where did you copy this from? So running into teachers that did not pride or allow children or students of color to be successful or believe that a child of color could be smart drove me to want to provide kids with that outlet of somebody who believes in them, someone who believes in them regardless of what they look like, what neighborhood they come from. So her negativity actually drove me to want to be a teacher that would not do the things that she did to kids. What keeps me or motivates me daily to stay in the work, to be my best at the work, is my son. My son when he was in elementary, middle school, he went to his mom's school where she was. Then he went for a little while, and then when he got to middle school, he came to my school. So I always wanted to make sure that I created an environment that I would want my son in. Even though he's no longer here at my school, I want to make sure that everyone's child has an opportunity to grow. My son he has test anxiety. He had a 504 in school. He had a lot of those issues. A brilliant child, but he needed support. He needed individuals that cared about him. He needed individuals that would motivate him. So I wanted to always make sure that I was that person for any child that walks through my doors. So that's my consistent motivation. Even though he's in college now, sophomore, doesn't really need us as much, except for our money.
He'll always need you.
Right. He's a constant motivation to me.
Thank you, Fred. I'm glad you said that. Thank you for sharing that. Brian.
I'll say the answer to both the questions, in my humble opinion, is the kids. What inspired me to get into education and to do what I do now is the kids, but it came from coaching football. So I before I took even a position at a school, and when I was doing my undergrad, I was asked to help coach in a volunteer position and come around and try to impact some middle school kids. And teaching is coaching. So when you're around these kids and you're teaching them at that point, it was just how to get down in an appropriate stance, and how to get off the ball appropriately and do those little things. And then you see the growth each day. It's like little baby deer. They don't really know kind of what they're doing, and then you see the growth, and then it gets to the point where it's the end of the season, and oh my gosh, this kid has made a tremendous amount of growth. And I really like doing this. I really like being around kids, and I really like impacting them, which then led me to pursue a career in education. And I just I want to be around these kids because I really think I can make a positive impact. Who motivates me today? Kind of what Dr. White and everybody's kind of saying, the kids. What really helps me, and unfortunately, not unfortunately, but in my position as an assistant principal, I deal with a lot of the disciplinary issues, which is perfectly fine. I enjoy doing that, and I think that's what really making teachers and helping teachers and staff see kids in a different light, and helping more of that positive, and trying to really solve the problem of what's going on with each individual student, whether it's academically or behaviorally. It really what drives me, because there are no bad kids. They're all really good kids. They just need different support in different areas. So that's what drives me every single day, is trying to find and trying to pinpoint, okay, what is that support? How can we actually help this individual student to succeed? And again, whether it's academically or behaviorally. So that's really what motivates me today.
Awesome. Great stuff right there. Let's talk about two glows and grows, or two things that you did from this last school year. When you think back about it, and talk about, either the glows or grows from 23, 24, and what you really have in the center of your mind. So let's start with Carol first. Glows and grows, 23, 24.
So the first thing that popped in my mind is the coming out of COVID, there's so many learning gaps and behavior gaps. And and I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know. It's different, right? Education is different right now than when we first came in. I could throw my birth date out there too, Dean, and kind of rank up there too. But the environment's different, right? The parents are different, families are different.
Everything's changing.
A lot of different things going on. So with that being said, I focus a lot, and it's very near and dear to my heart, interventions. What do interventions look like? And what that famous old PLC adage, what do you do when kids aren't learning, right? So focusing on the individual students, I think, has really become my glow for the past couple of years.
Love it. Great stuff. Jamie.
So glows, I would say sustainability. I actually retained 100% of my staff this year, in the midst of what we've been going through, and the teacher shortage. That's really huge.
Yeah.
And so that is a true glow. And not only that, with that sustainability, I was able to grow my student population that increased by over 150 students so far, and growing daily. So that's really good. Grow, my staff is really, really young, 0 to 3 years for 80% of them. So I grow data, for me to look at their data to see how I can help them to grow, and to help them to look at my students' data so that we can reach them where they are. And trying to keep everyone's mindset in the correct space, because our children lost some things when we weren't totally inside of the building, and trying to find those gaps and bridge the gaps. and keep everybody motivated to keep going. And so I think those are my glow and grows.
Love it right there, Brian.
I'll say my biggest glow right now is trying to get kids not to be afraid to come down to the principal's office. And what I mean by that is, you get the call over, hey, Mr. Radowski needs you down in the office. 9 times out of 10, you hear kids and, well, okay, well, so how can we switch that? How can we kind of change that around? So we really put on a big initiative as for teachers to look at kids a little bit differently too. And we started this positive behavioral initiative where if teachers want to recognize kids for doing something awesome, they will refer them down to the office. And it's a real great opportunity for me to meet a bunch of kids and not only get to tell them how awesome they are, but then also get to call their parents and tell them how awesome they are and how much I appreciate, being able to educate their kids. So I think it's just that mindset switch, and I think it's just done in a different way, not only for kids not being afraid to come down to the principal's office, but then I also think it's a mindset for teachers to look at and say, okay, well, let's try to find some good here, because I know that sometimes education can be challenging and it can be difficult on days. So finding the good in kids and making sure that they highlight that good, on a daily basis. And I could tell you, we have a stack, like massive stack of positive behavior referrals. And it just changes the culture of the building. So something that I'm really, really proud of right now.
I love that. You're right. That does change the culture of a building right away. Good stuff right there. Frederick.
Well, my glow is gradual progress. My school in our state, we are graded 1 through 5, 5 being the highest. My school has been a 5 for the last 2 years, and my team has only been together for 3 years. So we have learned to cut out some of the noise of people telling you, hey, you have to do this, or you have to score this, or you need to be up here. And instead, our team has really looked into our data, and we have learned how to make that gradual move until we can get to a point of being able to sustain high level learning in our building. So not folding to the pressure of 1,000 people coming into your building and telling you what you need to do, or telling you this program is going to work best for you. Listening to my staff, talking to our stakeholders, and making sure that we understand the students in our building and move at a pace that is good for us, not necessarily what the district may want or what your boss may want, but what's best for your school. My grow is being patient with individuals that are not in your building. Uh, those individuals that, once again, that always know best, that want to tell you, hey, this is how you're going to make your school great, and being able to be patient and listening to them, trying to take any nugget that they may have that can be applied to your school, that can go along with the systems that you already have in place and provide success. But being patient and not necessarily speaking exactly what you think sometimes of those individuals coming in to give you that advice that's going to save the day for you.
Great stuff right there.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. John.
I would say my glow is based on what I was saying before, which is helping folks to see that they have efficacy, teachers have efficacy to make a difference in the lives of students, particularly given all the negativity that teachers in our field today experience. I think it's important, in getting to back to Jamie's point about sustainability, the more empowered our teachers are or feel in making a difference in the lives of students, be that looking at data, be that deciding what instructional strategies or scaffolds they're going to use to help students who aren't meeting proficiency get there. The more teachers feel empowered, I truly believe, the more will stay in the field. So I would definitely say my glow is having a hand in that, being a part of the process of showing folks they do make a difference in the lives of these students, and their schools need them to show leadership. It might not be traditional leadership per se, APP, but again, we could all be exhibiting leadership in schools. So I would say that's definitely my glow. I do a lot, although my grow, I would say, is because I do a lot of work in urban communities. How can I, as a coach, continue to learn more myself about culturally relevant pedagogy? How do we build in SEL, social emotional learning? How do we truly make classrooms student owned, giving students ownership, as well as having high expectations for all of our students, and really ensuring that, again, we're doing that for all of our students, including students in the inner city.
Perfectly said.
So what does it look like at your level? Obviously, Tennessee, Ohio, the New England region, we all have similar qualities, but within our spheres, there's a little bit different than in Texas and Tennessee. So what does leadership look like in your area, in your sphere of influence, Brian? What would you look for in a leader there?
For me, I would look for somebody that is willing to build relationships, and not only within staff, but students, but then also community. I think, the community is the backbone of the school district. And I think that there are a lot of times where community and schools can be at odds. I think that the nature of our business is sometimes you're going to have natural conflict between opinions. I think there's a lot of politics that come into education as well. I think when I'm thinking of a leader and I'm thinking of somebody that really can bridge that gap, it sounds like, I have to be honest, Dr. White, I mean, you sound like the type of guy that really does do a great job with that. But I think it's that relationship. I think it's listening. I think it's understanding, and then being willing to bend where it needs to bend, where you need to bend in certain issues. So I think really a relationship builder is somebody that I would like as an educational leader, if that makes sense.
Nice. Well, he called you out, Fred. Let's go. Fred.
I'm just talking away and I'm on mute.
Jamie said that's always happening in the house anyway. So we got it.
I think when I'm looking for a leader or helping someone look for a leader, I'm looking for an individual that is more understanding that it's not about keeping a job, but about doing the job. An individual that does not want to just sit in the big chair, but an individual that understands the responsibility of that chair. We have, as school leaders, district leaders, the responsibility of educating kids, of serving our communities. That responsibility is so great that I would definitely not want an individual in there that just gets off on the power piece of it or the position piece of it. Those individuals come and go. They'll come in and the stress of the work will drive them out, in no time. But they will have kept somebody that was meant for that chair out because they talked a good game. So I'd always look for a leader that their why has to do with the children, has to do with the community, has to do with service. And if their why doesn't capture those pieces, then they're really not ready for leadership because they have not self-reflected. They have not set themselves up to be a servant leader. So if I can't find that in someone, I'll create that here at my school. My people, my facilitator, PLC coach, assistant principal, all of them have come up within my school. So once again, so if you can't find the leader that you want, you have to create that leader. So
Man, Fred, back to that old school Bud Light. I love you, man. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. John.
You
Love you
know,
too.
it's a hard act to follow, Dr. White. So, I would agree with Fred that it is about servant leadership. So, and it's about doing the work rather than being in that chair. So, I feel at the crux of school leadership is instructional leadership. So, does a leader know what quality instruction looks like? And not that they have to have all the answers, but are they modeling best practice? Are they listening to their teachers and providing opportunities for teachers to engage and work with one another? Are they finding the time, despite the plethora of reports that are needed by this state and that state? Are they still finding the time to meet with their teachers? And not just at formal evaluation time, but throughout the year, are they making space for getting into classrooms and then again having those conversations with their educators when the stakes aren't as high, when there is opportunity to have movement and to discuss things? And are they building that? And this gets to Brian's point, building relationships with folks, trusting relationships by consistently being present in classrooms. So, when I work with leaders, that's what I'm working hopefully to help them develop. How do you get into classrooms? How do you have those conversations? How do you listen as much as you talk, to what your teacher colleagues are saying about what the needs are of students? And then to Fred's point about servant leadership, again, whether it's modeling, whether it's putting those systems in place for teachers to work together, what resources are you providing for your teachers? How are you ensuring that they're getting the supports and the professional development that they need? And again, not just being the evaluator, the person who has the quote unquote power, because those people tend not to get buy-in either. And if we really want best practices to take hold, our educators, our teachers need to trust our leaders. And that does come from being a servant leader.
Jamie, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
So what do we look for in a leader now? Post-pandemic, transparency. People need to hear the truth. And so a leader has to be willing to be vulnerable and just put the information out there so that everyone in the school can lead. So, for instance, I put out there when whoever's out for the day, I put out who's out, who's supposed to cover, like so everyone in the building can help me lead throughout the day. So you know that if there was a substitute supposed to be next door and no one comes, you pull those babies in because you know that they need supervision. And so I tell my staff it takes all of us to lead. Lead from where you are. If you're leading in the classroom, you're still a leader. If you are in front of children at any point during the day, then that is your role. So I think over the years, leadership has kind of shifted to where everyone should be taught that that's your role if you're in this educational arena. It's about being relatable, being able to motivate, and truly getting to know every person in your building because they all need something different so that they'll be able to bring their best each day. And so, if you are leading, I would encourage you to not only be a relationship with the children, as Brian said, but you must also be able to build relationships with every person, the custodian, the person that works in the cafeteria, like every person in the building, and making sure that they all know that they matter. That is how you will get people to follow you as a leader, because if no one follows you, you're not leading. And so when I think of leadership, um, pre-pandemic, I don't know if we shared all of the things that we share now with people as we lead, but I think it's truly important to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Carol, talk to us.
Well, you thought it was hard following Dr. White. Now I have to follow all of you with all of your fabulousness there. And as I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, moral leadership, check, servitude, check, trust, check, empathy, all those things. But I couldn't help but coming back to even when we were working to try to fill Brian's position at my building. And I couldn't get away from the concept of teamwork, even within and trust within that leadership team. It makes or breaks your day if you have a strong team to help support you be a leader, right? So we talk a lot about yin and yang, like when I step out, he steps in, or when he steps out, I step in. And I think that goes even bigger to a district level, right? So if your team is all on the same page with all of the fabulousness that you just mentioned, including trust, and then you add in that open door policy of, come on in, even with your leadership team, I think that's good for buildings. I think that's good for kids. I think it's good for parents. It makes it real.
So let's take it one step further. Let's talk about SEL for your staff. We all talk about ensuring that kids have a safe place in the school to learn, and that we put relationships before content, and we really wrap blankets around them to make sure that they get what they need to. But let's not forget about our staff. In my building, I have 200 staff members. There are a lot. And you know what? And there are various needs. And this is much bigger than the last job that I held. So I'm finding out really fast how important it is for everybody to feel balanced. But let's talk about it in your school. Fred, why don't you go first? Talk about how SEL is important for the teachers in your building. Jamie, you want to take care of this?
I got it. I think that social emotional learning, especially as it relates to your staff members, is extremely important. Coming out of the pandemic, I've probably had more professors to come to me and talk about, life-changing events, from death in the family to their own psychological disorders, and it was rough. It was rough not being able to necessarily give them answers, because in the educational field, you're the leader. You're supposed to, if not having the answers, you're supposed to at least be able to tell your people how to get the answers. But with the social emotional piece, it was just providing them with that ear. I always have an open door policy. My professors know that if something is bothering you, you can come and talk to me. Now, we can have two types of conversations. And I think everybody, when we're talking about supporting the teachers, you have to be able to have these. We can have a conversation where you come in and you're just venting, and that means you're going to close the door because there's going to be some language we might not want everyone to hear. Or there's a conversation where you want me to give you feedback to change whatever you're going through, or to help you in some other way. My teachers normally just want to get it off their chest because they know that the job that we have is stressful. So they'll come in, close the door, get it off their chest, and then go back and still give me 100%. I think that as we're addressing the teacher piece, though, we have to look at our own social emotional learning piece. Because we're the people that deal with everything that comes from our teachers and comes from our kids, what are we then doing for us? What safety net do we have in place for ourselves? I think Jamie and I, we provide each other with that. We come home and we debrief, and we can, talk about it and complain about it and still get up the next day and go back to work and do it all over again. But how many people don't have someone like that knows what they're going through, knows the ups and downs of school leadership? So I think once again, for teachers, just provide them a ear sometimes. Sometimes you need to give them some criticisms to help them change, but also remembering as school leaders, you have to think about you too, and how you debrief, how you de-stress, how you deal with your own social emotional issues also.
I'm glad you said that about emotional security. We talk as an administrative team all the time, a group of 10 people. You have the right to come in and say whatever's on your mind, and just to help you stay balanced is so important administratively because we are conduits for everything that happens from parents to kids to staff. And, we do reach capacity once in a while out there, educators. If you're listening, okay, when you see us start to shake a little bit, that means that we're getting full. So give us that little bit of grace. But we try to always make sure we're there for you. And I'm glad you brought that up, Frederick. Great stuff right there. John.
I think too, I don't work obviously in one building as a principal, but I'm going in and out of school buildings all the time. And there are times you do get a feel about a school community just by walking through the front door and sensing things. So we talk, as we're saying here, about the social emotional learning needs of our students, but in terms of our educators, how can we build in, when I think of that question, I ask myself, how can we build in little celebrations along the way in our day? So for example, if we are doing a PLC meeting, one practice I recommend that folks implement, even though some folks are a little hesitant to do this, they don't see us as being forward thinking, but I always ask folks to start a meeting with the good of the order and what has happened that you're really proud of since we met the last time. And just very quickly going around the table and grounding the work in positivity and sharing out and celebrating what our colleagues are doing. That's good, right? So that's one strategy. And then as leaders, how are we highlighting the good things that our educators are doing in little ways, just little simple ways? How do we celebrate that? And different communities do that differently. Some have teacher of the month, some get them breakfast every now and then. And it might sound trite, but those little things do matter. So, if you're doing a PD, if you have some food there, everyone's heart, my heart at least is through my stomach. So, again, how do we celebrate the little things and highlight the little things for with our educators?
Good stuff. Let's go down to Jamie.
Hard to follow both my husband and John, but I do agree about the celebrations. I celebrate daily. I do virtual announcements, and so I spotlight teachers, staff, and students every day. That kind of helps with your mindset. Everybody likes to see themselves, see a picture of themselves, see that they did something good. So they do like that. But I also, at least once a month, I schedule a staff meeting after school, and then about 15 minutes before the meeting, I cancel it. And I actually make an announcement to my staff and tell them that they have 1 hour to do something for themselves because no one is expecting them because they were scheduled to be at a meeting. Children are not expecting them, husbands not expecting you, like no one knows that you're free. So just do whatever you need. If you need to go home and take a nap, if you want to go and get your hair done, your nails done, like what do you need to do to pour into yourself? And then the next day I ask them, so what did you do with your hour? Like to remind them that you can't pour from an empty cup. So you must take care of yourself as well. But they don't realize that that hour actually gives me an hour as well as a leader to pour into me and give me what I need. And so I started that just randomly. I do that um, to make sure that we remember to take care of ourselves. Um, and um, and then I'll have in my morning messages, I'll ask them to check on their neighbor because you never know what people are going through. And so, because we know everything that's going on in the building as a leader, but they don't actually know everything that's going on. And once you hear what other people are going through, you realize that what I'm going through may not be as bad as what I thought it was because other people really are going through some things and they're smiling every day, and you walk past them and you don't know what they're going through. And so because I have a lot of staff that take care of other people. Um, and when I first went in as a principal, I asked them, "Who do you take care of? Like, who are you responsible for? Be it a dog, a parent, your nephew. Like, tell me now who you take care of, and then from now on, it's just a text message when you need it to tell me I need to go take care of my mom. I need to go and pick up my nephew. My dog is sick." And so we don't have to have like long conversations because I know that this is your family. This is what's most important to you, and so those are the things that you also could ask about as a leader to make sure that the grandchildren are okay. That the daughter, how is the daughter doing? How's your husband? Those type of things, so that you can be cognizant of what they're going through as a staff, and to kind of keep a pulse on everyone's social and emotional well-being, I guess you could say.
I'm glad you,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because at the end of the day, if we stop and think a little bit, every child that comes into our school comes in with some emotional trauma in some capacity. Not everyone, but we need to be aware of that. And adults are the exact same thing. We need to be we need to recognize that and make sure we're there to support in any way, shape, or form. So great stuff right there, Jamie. Appreciate that. Carol.
Okay, so the first thing that popped into my mind listening to you guys chat about that is that teachers need to understand and know that it's okay to take off a day, right? That it's okay, and that they don't have to spend 6 hours preparing their lessons to take a day off to, if they're sick or if their children are sick. So that's the first thing that's always kind of like a first thing out of my mouth when I see people are absent or there's some situations that are going on at home. Like, it's okay. Right. And family first. And that's been a mantra in our district for, since Dr. Clark has been there. And I think we need to live it, right? We live it for ourselves as well, that family does come first, and your work family will help you fill in the gaps where we need to. But one thing I also wanted to point out was that sometimes I think we get as leaders super excited about whatever it is that we're working on or energy that we want to spread. And sometimes we need to check ourselves that, we might be stressing someone out. OTEs, like our evaluations, right? Like we don't like going in there for hours and spending hours filling in those little boxes either, but we don't necessarily always internalize the stress that it's putting on them to complete those questions, where we might not think a whole lot about it. Hey, that's a fantastic teacher. I don't need to worry about her or him, but they're the ones that are spending hours filling out those little boxes and those kinds of questions. So trying to promote work-life balance for staff, I think, is significant, at least in our building. That seems to be a problem. Like, there was a staff member a couple weeks ago that I middle of the day, I'm like, you need to leave. You're going to go sit at Panera for an hour and a half till whatever you come back. You're not going to go home and deal with the stress that you have at home. You're going to go, I don't want to go to Panera. Well, then go somewhere, right? And you're not allowed to come back until this such and such a time. So I think keeping the pulse of your staff, like you guys both mentioned, Jamie talked a lot about like being, aware of what's going on in their lives, checking on your neighbor, those kinds of things. But I do think that word balance needs to be mentioned often.
Great stuff right there. Brian, sorry, you're last, man. Good luck.
You guys all hit it out of the park. So, to kind of sum up what everybody said here, really it's grace and understanding. Trying to have a little bit of grace with people and understand that they do have real lives and they are real people and they have real things that are going on inside of them. Me being still a young administrator, I learn every single day from Carol. And I think there's many of times this year where I very much so am that go, go, go type of person where I see a problem, I'm trying to solve a problem, I'm moving on to the next problem. And it brings back actually something that happened this year where we had a staff member that we had a TBT day where we gave staff time off to go and work inside of the building and work through some things and work through, their processes and data collection and everything. And the teacher completely did not recognize that was going to be happening that day. So she came to me and she said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, you can do this, this, this." And I'm just trying to solve the problem. And in reflection, and talking to Carol, she kind of grounded me, and that's why we make a great team. Is she looked at me and she said, "You didn't give her a chance just to be unprepared." And that's okay sometimes, so I learn every single day. And that, that's also being married to and trying to understand that as a young husband, and trying to understand what Dr. White said to me is, or what Dr. White just said earlier was, hey, what do you need? Do you need just a moment to shut the door and just really let it go? Or you're looking for answers? So it's not only helped me out educationally, but it's also helped me out in my own marriage as well. So I think other little things that you can do is, you see a teacher struggling, you can cover a class. I covered a gym class today. I don't know if Carol even knew that, but it kind of walked in there and kind of helped out just because they needed a second just to get away, So I think just those type of things, text messaging, phone calls, just being open and understanding that, hey, we're all in this together. I'm not up here, you're not down here. We're equal. So let's help each other out and try to get through it together. So yeah.
Great stuff, Brian. Thanks for sharing.
All right, real quick. It's about PD, sharpening those tools. This is what we're doing right now, sharpening those tools. So I'm going to ask you, share your knowledge with Iowa, with South Dakota, Idaho. Give me one conference you recommend and one podcast you recommend. One conference you recommend, one podcast you recommend. I'm going to give you a good one, John. Are you ready, John? Start it off, John. Here goes the softball.
Wow. So podcasts, I would say Cult of Pedagogy. I think it's run by Jennifer Gonzalez. Great topics about instructional leadership and what good quality instruction is. And then as for a conference, there are many of them. I've enjoyed at times going to ASCD's various conferences. Can't go wrong with the Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development's conferences.
Do you know something about a podcast yourself, John?
I do. I just started my own podcast very quickly. If I could pitch it, Have a Life Teaching. And it's a lot of work, as you well know.
John, I bet you a softball, bro. You didn't hit it out of the park. Jesus Christ. Dr. Fred White.
Well, of course, the podcast. I'll start with that. Inside the Red Zone, I think is a great podcast. I would recommend to everyone every time they can watch it. The conference, a conference that I'm new to, as the Innovative Schools Conference, and I'm doing one in the one in San Antonio coming up at the end of November. I've heard great things about it, and I hope to be able to tell you guys the next time I'm here that it was an absolutely wonderful conference. I'm always looking for new ideas, things that can affect my scholars. And if you have Avid, I did Avid for years. I love the Avid conferences. So those are just two that I would recommend.
Thank you. Brian, talk to us.
Well, what I could say is, again, still kind of, I'm getting some good information here from everybody, of what conferences to go to. I've only ever been to local conferences that are around in Ohio. But, it's definitely something that I need to branch out with, still being relatively young. I need to get out there and I need to start learning. I mean, great opportunity even being here with you guys and just being able to, listen to really, really smart people. And I have been taking notes this entire time to try to just make sure that, hey, I'm picking up on a lot of really, really wonderful things here. So, that's the biggest thing for me is still trying to branch out and get out there and kind of just learn from people. And in terms of podcasts, I gotta be honest, guys, this video cast right here is really wonderful. This Unlock the Middle. I think that people need to, make sure that they're coming on this and taking a look at this. But in terms of podcasts, I really do a lot of self-motivational podcasts. I listen to a lot of Jocko Willenick. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jocko, but Jocko is a big person that I like to listen to often. It's more motivational, it's more tactical, it's trying to understand, and it's taking it from a different angle. So that's something that I would recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, I need some Goggins at 3 a.m. when I wake up.
That's what I'm talking
Carol,
about.
some of that Title I money for that young man, Brian there, Carol. Talk to us.
he's on the show. So I, of course, unlock the middle, by the way, like in the red zone. There's zero chance I'm saying anything else besides that right now. But actually, I'm not a big podcaster in terms of sitting and listening for myself. I like, and I do call to pedagogy. That's great stuff. But I still find myself opening up and reading it, right? Like I'll even sit there and read the transcripts instead of listening to that. So there's that. I do think that academically, I love going to like the National Council conferences, National Council of Mathematics, or English, those types of things. So I still get those classroom type things, but I will give a shout out to a local conference. It's the BASA Women's Conference. It's the Buckeye Association, go Buckeyes. The Buckeye Association of School Administrators puts on a great women's leadership conference. It's packed house of really just strong, energetic, awesome women in administration. So I do appreciate that one. And of course, a good old staple is any of the Battelle conferences.
Awesome. Jamie.
Podcasts. I actually listen to I always listen to Unlock the Middle, but Better Leaders, Better Schools. They do a 5-minute mini podcast. I actually have it on my morning. I have like this morning ritual that I have on my Alexa, and I force my husband to listen to it with me in the morning when we get dressed. And at the end is like the 4-minute educational strategy, and just encourages you to do something different each day. And so that's one of my favorites. Conferences, oh my God, so many. I recommend AASA, even if you're not a superintendent. It's actually really good information, and it talks to you about where education is going in the next few years. So I recommend that one. The SREB, they do a Making Schools Work conference, which is really good. I would recommend that one as well. AMLE for middle school principals, that one's really good. Oh, man, I've been to so many, I don't even know. Model schools, if you're trying to be the best school in the world. I could probably go on and on, but I think those are maybe my top, maybe 5, I guess, conferences that I would recommend for school leaders.
And a quick plug there for Texas AACD. I'll be presenting on Halloween the 31st.
I do love AACD, yes.
With Principal Cafele and Eric Francis, DOK, be there. So make sure you follow us on that. Dean Packard.
Hey, listen, very quickly, advice you'd give to staff members in your buildings or people you work with going into Thanksgiving and Christmas. Make it quick, 30 seconds each. Carol, go.
Thank your family just for being.
Bang, good. Brian, go.
Take a break and take a breath. That's
boom, even better. Short and sweet. To the point. Jamie, go.
I asked them, what are you doing for yourself over the holiday break?
Ooh, adding another nugget. John, go.
Enjoy your people.
Ah, perfect. And Frederick.
Just enjoy your life and come back stronger.
There it is right there, Josh.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. We appreciate you. And you know what, Dean Packard? I think we scored another touchdown. We scored another touchdown in the red zone. It's almost playoff time, and we need those touchdowns. We'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight on the red zone. But it's not over. It is not over, Dean Packard. This Sunday, Sean Kane, Fundamental 5, with his brand new book, 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us. Be part of the show. Sharpen those tools because we need you. Iron sharpens iron.
Hey, right there is all you need to hear. Guys, thank you so much. Listen, on behalf of John, on behalf of Frederick, on behalf of Jamie, Brian, and Carol, we want to say thank you. Most importantly, remember to keep doing the things that make you you, to build value in what you do, and be there for every kid that's in front of you. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. Thank you all for joining us tonight.